Look at this. A Paris Saint-Germain player bursts into the box and scores, but that player isn't the striker. It's the right back. In the same move, every single one of the 4 players inside the area has abandoned their original position, yet every single one of them is exactly where they need to be, at exactly the right moment. And this doesn't just happen sometimes. It happens constantly with this Paris Saint-Germain. Now here's what makes it even more insane. PSG just did it twice, back to back. 2 Champions League titles in a row. The first repeat European champion since Real Madrid ruled the continent from 2016 to 2018. And they did it in Budapest, in a final against Arsenal, with their backs against the wall going behind in the 6th minute and still finding a way to win on penalties. Luis Enrique has turned tactical chaos into the most lethal weapon in European football, and nobody has been able to stop them. So I decided to go deep on how he built the system that is now crushing the entire continent for the 2nd consecutive year. To understand where PSG are now, you need to understand how broken they were before. Since Qatar took over the club in 2011, Paris Saint-Germain followed a simple strategy: buy the biggest stars on the planet and assume that talent alone wins trophies. The coach was an afterthought. The structure was irrelevant. Individual genius was supposed to solve everything. When Neymar arrived for 222 million euros in 2017, the project fully crystallized around superstar culture. Thomas Tuchel tried to impose a real tactical system and actual work ethic on the squad, and he got close, reaching PSG's first ever Champions League final in 2020. But he constantly clashed with certain players, particularly Kylian Mbappe. Tuchel himself admitted he felt more like a sports minister than a football manager. He was fired mid-season. What followed were coaches who were deliberately less authoritative managers, chosen not for their tactical vision, but for their ability to keep the stars happy. The logic was simple and disastrous. Don't make the dressing room uncomfortable. The pinnacle of this strategy came in 2021, when PSG assembled Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe in the same attack. The most expensive front 3 in football history, and it collapsed spectacularly. Galtier publicly admitted that Messi was excused from defensive duties, but so were Neymar and Mbappe. When the ball was lost, you'd see Mbappe standing still, Neymar remonstrating with teammates without moving a single step backward, and Messi simply not engaging at all. Manchester City walked through their midfield like it didn't exist. Bayern dismantled them with ease. PSG had more possession than almost anyone in Europe. They had no structure. They had no plan. Their only real idea was to somehow get the ball to their 3 attackers. But since Messi and Neymar needed it played to their feet, and the team couldn't build cleanly from the back, the ball kept arriving to them in terrible conditions. Too much space still to cover, no momentum behind them. The project was broken, not just tactically, psychologically, structurally, completely. Al-Khalifi had seen enough. He sat down with Luis Campos and they agreed. The only way out of this mess was someone with an immovable personality and a clear footballing identity. Someone who wouldn't bend to the politics of the dressing room. That someone was Luis Enrique Martinez. Within days of arriving, he communicated to Berratti and Neymar, 2 of the dressing room's heaviest voices, that they would not be part of his project. No negotiation, no exception. My challenge here is to build a team, he said. I have committed to that. I have the support of the club. He started experimenting with systems, different shapes, different roles, and the French media crucified him. When PSG won, the press said they deserved to lose and only survived through luck. When they lost, it was a catastrophe. Luis Enrique did not flinch once. Then came a game against Real Sociedad. 6 of their players were pressing PSG so aggressively they couldn't move the ball out of their own third. In the dressing room at halftime, Luis Enrique made one decision that quietly changed everything. He dropped Vitinha into the pivot position, the deepest midfield role, so the ball could circulate more cleanly. PSG won 2-0. The system started to breathe. He pushed Mbappe relentlessly that season. I've read that you love Michael Jordan, he told him. Michael Jordan grabbed all his teammates by the throat and defended like an animal. Under those orders, Mbappe's pressing was one of the key factors in eliminating Barcelona from the quarterfinals. His pressure exposed Ronald Araujo's discomfort in possession, forced an error, and the red card that defined the tie came directly from that moment. PSG reached the semifinals and were eliminated by Borussia Dortmund, but the foundation was real. The direction was clear. At the end of that season, Kylian Mbappe announced he was leaving for Real Madrid. It was the biggest departure in PSG history. He had just had his best ever goal-scoring season. The panic in Paris was instant, but Luis Enrique saw it differently. A player who moves where he wants means there are game situations I can't control, he said. Next year, I'm going to control all of them, every single one. He was right, and the way the 2025-26 season unfolded proved it in ways nobody expected. PSG started the new Champions League phase poorly. After 8 games, they were sitting 11th, barely scraping into the playoff round instead of the knockout stages directly. The pressure was brutal. There were calls for Luis Enrique's head in the French press, with front pages pointing at him him as the sole culprit for the mess. And then came the knockout rounds, and PSG became something else entirely. Monaco, 5-4 on aggregate. PSG came from 2-0 down in the first leg in the Principality to win 3-2. Desiree Doué scored twice, odds across 2 legs as if they were playing a youth team. The fluid attacking combinations, the relentless pressing, the sheer number of players arriving into dangerous areas. It looked like a training exercise. Liverpool, in one of the most dramatic semifinals in recent Champions League history. PSG won the first leg at the Parc des Princes 5-4 in an extraordinary night, then held on for a 1-1 draw in Munich. Safonov, who replaced Donnarumma due to injury, was extraordinary. Pacho was immense. The wall held. And then came the final. Arsenal arrived at the Puskás Arena as the most dominant team in this year's competition. The first club in Champions League history to win all 8 of their league phase matches, conceding just 4 goals across the entire group stage. Arteta's side was organized, physical, suffocating in their press, and deeply motivated. This was their first Champions League final in 20 years. They started perfectly. 6 minutes in, a midfield clearance by Marquinhos deflected off Leandro Trossard. Kai Havertz, who had scored in the 2021 final for Chelsea, collected it, drove toward goal, and rifled it through the near post. 1-0 Arsenal, the third man in history to score Champions League final goals for 2 different clubs. Arsenal retreated into a low block and dared PSG to break them down. For nearly an hour, they couldn't. The Gunners had prepared meticulously. Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, and Doué found no space. Every channel was closed. Then Kvaratskhelia was fouled by Christian Mosquera in the box. Penalty. Up stepped Ousmane Dembele, Ballon d'Or winner, the man who had reinvented himself completely under Luis Enrique, from a fragile, inconsistent winger to the absolute tactical heartbeat of this team. He sent David Raya the wrong way. 1-1. The match stayed level through the remainder of regulation. Through extra time, Bukayo Saka was substituted. Dembele was substituted. Both teams emptied their bench trying to find something. They couldn't. Penalties. Ramos scored. Eze missed. Doué scored. Gyökeres scored. Beraldo scored. Rice scored. Nuno Mendes saved by Raya. Martinelli scored. Then the 5th. Gabriel Magalhaes stepped up, needing to score to keep Arsenal alive. He hit it over the crossbar. Paris Saint-Germain, champions of Europe, again. It's incredible, said Marquinhos, captain. From the very first day, the coach said it's hard to win, and winning twice is even more difficult. So we all had to get back to work. That was the mentality. So how exactly does this team work? What makes them almost impossible to stop? 1. The numerical superiority obsession. PSG always seek to have more players than the opponent in any given zone of the pitch. When building out from the back, 3 midfielders join the 2 center backs to create a 5v4 or 5v3 superiority against the press. The opponent always has 1 man too few. Once PSG breaks through the first line, the transition is explosive. Their wide forwards are immediately in 1v1 situations against isolated fullbacks with space behind them. 2. Vitinha, the conductor. Since Luis Enrique dropped him into the pivot against Real Sociedad in 2024, Vitinha has become the most important player on the pitch when PSG have the ball. He nearly broke Xavi Hernandez's all-time record for total passes in a single Champions League campaign. He sets the tempo, he gives clarity, he is the calm at the center of the storm. Around him, João Neves brings relentless energy, and Fabian Ruiz provides positional intelligence and technical quality. The midfield 3 is the engine of everything. 3. The false 9 and the fluid attack. When opponents choose to man-mark PSG's midfielders as Liverpool did last year, as Arsenal tried this year, the attacking line adapts. Dembele drops between the lines, receiving in the space between midfield and defense, turning and driving at the disorganized back line. This was the move that led to his famous solo goal against Arsenal in the 2025 semifinals. The same principle played out repeatedly this season as teams copied that approach and kept getting punished by it. 4. The asymmetric fullbacks. PSG's system looks like a 4-3-3 at rest, but in attack, it permanently transforms. On the left, Nuno Mendes stays disciplined, dropping to form a back 3 with Pacho and Marquinhos, giving an extra passing option from deep and maintaining defensive solidity. On the right, Achraf Hakimi attacks constantly, overlapping and underlapping, adding another dimension to the attack, creating the numerical advantages in midfield that the system depends on. Both scored against Aston Villa in last year's quarterfinals. Both were key components of the road to Budapest this year. 5. The pressing machine. No lead is safe enough for PSG to stop pressing. No minute is late enough to slow down. This is the cultural revolution Luis Enrique brought to Paris. Players who used to walk when the ball was lost now sprint. The press is coordinated, triggered by specific cues, and sustained for 95 minutes. Against Inter in the 2025 final, they gave the kickoff away deliberately just to press higher. Against Arsenal in Budapest, the press was was so organized that despite going behind early, they never gave the Gunners a second of comfort in their own half. 6. Donnarumma and Safonov, the last line. Donnarumma was decisive against Liverpool in the 2025 campaign, saving 2 penalties in the shootout in the round of 16. This season, Safonov ordinary against Bayern in the semi-finals, keeping the tie alive at the moment it threatened to slip away. The squad depth Luis Enrique has built is remarkable. No single player is now bigger than the system. Luis Enrique has not just won the Champions League twice, he has done something that was widely considered impossible at this football club. He changed the culture. The PSG of the Tridente era, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, was a team where the dressing room had more power than the manager, where stars were excused from defensive work, where the structure of the team was sacrificed to protect the feelings of expensive individuals. That PSG was talented, rich, and incapable of winning anything that truly mattered. This PSG is different. Dembele runs back to defend his own box in the 88th minute. The Ballon d'Or winner tracks his man to the corner flag. Hakimi presses the opposition goalkeeper when PSG don't have the ball. Nobody is exempt. Nobody is untouchable. I would give him the Ballon d'Or just for how he defended in this final, said someone in the PSG camp after Budapest, talking about Dembele. Leadership through humility. Stars who run. 2 Champions Leagues, back-to-back. Built from the rubble of one of football's greatest ego projects. And the most remarkable thing? They didn't even start this campaign well. They finished 11th in the league phase. They had to go through a playoff. Then they beat Chelsea 8-2, Liverpool 4-0, and Bayern 6-5, and survived a penalty shootout against the most dominant side in the competition. If that's what PSG look like when they're not even at their best in the group stage, you have to ask yourself, is anyone stopping them next year? Luis Enrique has turned chaos into a dynasty. The stars aren't figurines anymore. They work. And the scariest part of all? He said it himself. He wants to control every game situation. Every single one, without exception.